And first things first, we're actually going to have everybody rise where they are, remove their caps, and please rise for the playing of our national anthem, performed by the MIHS Animal Band, directed by Parker Bixby. Thank you, Animal Band. Just 1 second before you walk out, I just want to thank everyone in the band for being here, taking time out of your Saturday. Give it up. And it should be remembered that Coach Pepple loved the band, and the band was such an integral part of the program. So thank you. Okay, thank you to everyone for being here on this unusually warm and smoky now fall Saturday. And special thanks to those who flew or drove long distances to be here with us today. My name is Gavin Cree, and I am the head boys basketball coach and a PE teacher here at Mercer Island High School, going into my 14th season as coach. I grew up in the Islander program and graduated in 2000 as a 2-year letterman. We're gathered here today in the Mercer Island High School gymnasium to honor and celebrate the life of a very special man to so many of us at Pepple. I want to take a moment at the start of our program to recognize the entire Pepple family and extended family who are with us today. Please stand and be recognized. And then I want to give a special recognition to Shirley. As a coach, I know the sacrifices that spouses and families make to allow us to take on this crazy profession. Shirley, you are the absolute best, and Ed's impact would never have been as meaningful to this community without you. You were the love of Ed's life and appreciated by so many here. Thank you, Shirley. Okay, as you can see in our program, we're going to have a few speakers this afternoon that are former Islander team members. We've also got some video elements to share. Before we begin, I just wanted to give a sincere thank you to 2 important teammates of mine on this project. Dave Sanford, 4-year team manager and class of 2002, and Ruth Ann Biggers. Where are you, Ruth Ann? Ruth Ann Biggers, a former parent. Former team parent whose son Duke also graduated in 2002 and is here today. Dave and I met with members of the Pepple family over Zoom in May to receive their blessing and launch the planning for this event. We eventually brought Ruth Ann into the fold and hit the ground running in June. If any of you are like me, we've been yearning for this opportunity to gather as a community to honor Coach and share this moment together. After 2+ years of waiting, I'm so excited that we are finally here. I couldn't have asked for two better teammates on this project, so thank you both. And there's a lot more folks who have helped, of course, on this. I can't recognize each and every one of them right now, but they're in the program, and thank you for all your support, everybody. Just another quick couple notes. We have this program being recorded right now, and so we're going to send it out to everybody. You also probably received a card from Seth Landau, who is here today and is putting together a website with lots of information on Coach Pepple. This video from today will eventually be there, the video messages, and so much other content. It's only about 5% done, as I understand, but it's coming together, so it'll be a great place that'll last forever to see information and the history of Coach Pepple. Thank you, Seth. I'd like to begin by introducing Matt Logie, class of 1999, to share some opening remarks. For those who may not know, Matt is Coach Pepple's grandson and played for the Islanders from 1997 to 1999. He is a 2-time state champion and the all-time leader in three-pointers made and free throw percentage in program history. Matt and I grew up playing hoops together in Little Dribblers, select basketball, and then at MIHS. Matt played collegiately at Lehigh before entering the coaching profession himself, where he is currently the head coach at Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego, California. Please welcome Matt Logie.
So great to see so many faces here today. And on behalf of the entire Pepple family, I want to thank everybody for not only being here today, but the letters and the phone calls and the emails, sharing your stories when my grandpa passed. It was so appreciated and helpful in our grieving process, and it meant a lot. It means a lot to all of us here today. I'd also first like to thank Gavin. The way you've carried on the Islander way and the culture of our program has truly honored Coach P's legacy and the traditions of our program, and it's so appreciated by the many alumni here at Mercer Island. You do it the right way, and with great class, and we're all very proud to have you leading the Islanders, so thank you. I'd also like to thank Dave Sanford and Ruth Ann Biggers for their time and efforts in organizing today's event. We couldn't have done this without you on the ground here on the island, and thank you very much from all of us in the Pepple family. I know they're not here, but I do want to thank the Animal Band as well. That surely made Coach P smile, and to hear those drums beating again really gets the blood flowing. I know if any of you former Islanders are like me, we were wanting to do 2-ball layups and get loose here with the sounds of that band. So I think the first thing I want to touch on is just why it's so important that we're here today to gather. While our family had a small gathering to honor my grandfather and his life and lay him to rest, the unique times that we've had and experienced these last couple of years didn't allow for an event of this kind, obviously. To have such a groundswell of momentum, to make sure we create this opportunity after 2 years I think speaks to the significance of his life and the impact that he had on other people. And so thank you for being here today and for making this possible. The other thing that's significant to me about gathering is just the power of stopping. Stopping the whirlwind of life and what we all are doing to gather here today to reflect. There's tremendous gratitude in that. And it brings so much honor and significance to my grandfather's life that you all would stop in the middle of your lives, in the middle of the daily bustle that we all experience to be here today. Lastly, to gather together as a community, I think, is tremendously impactful. To celebrate the impact on our lives, the way that Coach brought all of our lives together is a testament to the power of relationships and what life's journey is all about, making a difference for other people. I know Coach P is smiling down on all of us today, and I'm so pleased that we are all here today with him. So from all of us in the Pepple family, thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Matt, for teeing us up here. We have a difficult task on our hands today. In the words of Coach P, we'll call it a nice challenge. How do you encapsulate all that Ed Pepple was into an afternoon? We're going to give it a try, but we know we simply can't. Ed Pepple was a husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, teacher, coach, mentor, and friend. In one form or another, directly or indirectly, Coach Pepple has impacted each and every one of us in this gym, and many more who were unable to make it today. Speaking of this gym, 42 years. Coach Pepple spent 42 years between these walls patrolling this very sideline right here. He spent 42 years in that corner where my assistant coach Cooper is standing, putting the baskets up and down and up and down. Probably about 2 days of real time over the course of his career he spent in that corner. He spent 42 years teaching children and young men how to navigate life through the game of basketball. Sometimes, when I walk into this gym at night and the lights are off after returning from a game, and no one else is here, I get pretty reflective. I have these flashbacks. I see the old gym when I was a little kid before the remodel. It was darker in here. The walls were painted dark maroon, almost brown. The lighting was dimmer. The floor had a glossy oil-based finish, leaving the white lines on the court more of a cream color. The wood it's lifted now. It was laid on concrete then, so it was much harder if you fell on it. It sounded different. The ball bounced differently. And the smell, I can't describe the smell in words, but it was unique. Sometimes there was popcorn in that corner over there, the smell. And all I remember is walking into games in that corner right there, around the corner, and getting the first glimpse of the Islanders warming up on the floor, with the band playing behind them, and the team in one ball, the traditional MI warm-up, throwing the most crisp passes and making the most precise cuts that you'll ever see in the game of basketball. The panels on the maroon and white ball rotating so quickly, showing the backspin on the ball. And this was only warm-ups. The team oozed discipline. Coach Pepple stood in front of his bench, usually with his arms folded, right there, evaluating the opposition as they warmed up and the occasional peek to see if our warm-up intensity was up to standard. He was locked in and ready to compete. When he was between these lines, he was the most competitive person on the planet. He demanded effort and precision. He barked orders: rebound, cross in front, spots, run something. He was extremely direct, no sugarcoating anything. This was the Ed Pepple most of our community saw just coming to the games. It was the Ed Pepple that I knew watching it as a kid, and even the one I experienced as a player initially. But after playing for him and then coaching with him, I, like many others, discovered who Coach Pepple really was. He was a loving husband, father, a dedicated father and grandfather, and a mentor to his fellow coaches around the state, country, and the globe. He was a friend to his former players and rival coaches. He inspired many, including myself, to follow the path of coaching. He worked with players and coaches around the world in places like Jamaica, Japan, Australia, Germany, to name a few. He supported countless basketball players in the state of Washington by taking them around the country on BCI and AAU teams to play in front of college coaches. He was the first one to do that. He chaperoned groups of kids from Mercer Island and other communities to camps and showcases to be recruited. He wanted to create more opportunities for coaches and players, so he put together the Spring Premier League at Seattle University, where players from across the region gathered on Saturdays to compete against each other, with coaches working on their craft as well. Many of our coaches that we had in the program came from that league, were discovered there by Coach Pepple. He was a proud and active member of the Washington State Basketball Coaches Association, where he now has a service award given out annually in his name. He gave an immeasurable amount to the basketball community in our state. He gave and gave and gave to others. That's who he was. Away from the game, Coach Pepple was the kindest person in the world to the new people he encountered. When we traveled, Coach made anyone who was waiting on us feel like $1 million. Flight attendants, restaurant workers, hotel operators, you name it. They were made to feel like the most important person in the world at that moment. As players and coaches, we learned from him how to show class. Represent yourself and your community well. Make sure they want us to come back, he would say. I could go on and on, but that's why we have an amazing lineup of speakers today, with Steve, Eric, Omar, and Dave. And we have some incredible video messages from additional folks who could be here or are here as well. What I want to emphasize most about Coach Pepple is the love he had for his family, and it is a big family. What an empire he and Shirley built behind them. With that in mind, we're going to direct our attention to the screen at the west end of the gym for a slideshow put together by his daughter Jody with some amazing photos from Ed's life.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here but you're not. Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name. Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Hey. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Hey, hey. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here but you're not. Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. to the ones that we lost on the way. Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your do 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 do. Memories bring back your.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long, a beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know you. I would be nothing without you.
Jody, thank you for putting that together. That was amazing. As we all gather ourselves after that emotional video, I'd like to bring our first speaker, second speaker, to the podium. I'd like to bring Steve Hawes, MIHS class of 1968, up here. Steve was a member of Coach Pepple's first team at Mercer Island, and maybe, just maybe, one of the reasons that Coach Pepple wanted to take the job here in the first place. Pretty good player. Anyway, because I know Steve is humble and he won't share it, Steve does still hold some sizable records here at MIHS, including every rebounding record. Points per game in a season with 28. Most points in a game with 49. Most rebounds in a game with 40. Those were two different games, by the way. And a bunch of other records. They didn't measure block shots back then. He probably would have that record too. No big deal. Steve had a long professional career, both in the NBA and overseas, and has also done quite a bit of coaching himself. Steve Hawes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so amazing to see all these people, many of whom I knew from before, and many I haven't known. But it's just amazing to see that in all these years, in some cases decades, nobody has changed a bit. Unbelievable. And Mickey Smith, I think, is the only one that's changed how he looks. He looks younger than he did. Anyway, it's great to be here. Obviously, a very, very special occasion, and I'm glad that the family's been acknowledged. As we all know, that new Coach Pepple, he held family above anything. He had two families. He had his blood family, and he had his family of players and coaches and other people associated with the sport. So it's wonderful to see all of you, and I know obviously he'd be very happy to see this. Let's take a step back in history, maybe a couple steps, okay? We had just finished our junior year, my junior year, excuse me, here at the high school. I'll just say with another sort of mediocre effort. We hadn't had any very high expectations. We were basically considered slight underachievers, I think it's fair to say, as we're here at that time would acknowledge that. And Coach Pepple took the job in the spring of '67, and that all changed in a hurry. My first impression of him was, I've told a lot of people this, was sort of drill sergeant light, right? Because he had the short hair and he was clearly serious about what he was doing. But our first real encounter with Coach was, he had a team meeting, okay, with all the kids in the program, and we sat in that quadrant right over there. And he went through his vision, okay, of what this program could become. That it would be prepared, that we would be disciplined, then we would focus when we were practicing and playing, and become as good as we could become. And a lot of things involved with that in terms of having each other's back as teammates, and we would learn about that. And develop a program in which we had pride, that the school had pride, and that the community had pride. He talked about a few things, that he was going to build a plan, and we were going to follow it, and we bought into it. He was energetic, he was passionate, and it was just hard to think that wasn't going to happen, right? So we had this great meeting, and I was talking to Ron Comer this week about it, and we were talking about that meeting, and Ron asked Coach a question. I don't remember what the question was. I don't think Ron does either, but Coach answered it by telling Ron, as a response to his question, the things that he really needed to work on in his game. Mind you, this was before he'd seen any of us play live. We had no spring thing going at all. So we kind of looked at each other like, whoa, this guy is prepared. He knew us already, and we hadn't really even met him. So that was a real eye-opener, and it was an opportunity for us to just start to buy it, right? Toward the end of the meeting, Coach told us, it was suggested, he told us that we would all have buzz cuts before the season, buzz haircuts, right? And of course, that sent a shiver down everybody's spine. In 1967, buzz cuts weren't really cool. And moreover, he told us in the spring that we would have these buzz cuts before practice started, which was 6 months down the road. So we had 6 months to stew about it, right? So anyway, we get down close to the season, and 2 or 3 days before practice started, and we're kind of talking about it, and there was a myth that Coach initiated, built, and perpetuated, and that was that I was the first one in the barbershop because I wanted to show leadership, right? That's the myth. The reality, I just wanted to get it over with. So I went in down to the barbershop in the center, and haircuts were $1.75. Got my haircut, barber showed my, got the mirror out and looked at it, and he said, what do you think? I thought to myself, might not be short enough for Coach. Haircuts are $1.75. I don't want to come back here and do it again. So I said, take it all off. And he did. So that afternoon, we had a team meeting, and I distinctly remember parking in the lot, coming up here toward the gym, and my biggest fear was that I would run into some of the cheerleaders. And I did. Right? They were coming out of cheerleading practice or some of that, and I was kind of skulking in with my head down, hoping no one would notice, right? But that didn't happen, so that was good. And then as everybody got their haircuts and got together, we all kind of laughed at each other, but we also realized that we were in it together. We all had haircuts. We were in it together. And it wasn't just practice and games, it was at school. Everybody knew that we were part of the basketball program. And we felt pride in what we were doing. So we got into the season, and Coach had, a lot of you guys know this, a lot of things we did. We went to Don's men's shop and got the maroon blazers, right? Wore them at school game day and to the games. We practiced, on warm-ups, we had the maroon and white ball. Nobody did that. Okay, we had some pretty fancy warm-up drills, more than anybody else. And every time we went on the road, any opposing gym, they would jeer us and laugh at us and catcall. But you know what? It only made us stronger because we knew we were different. We knew we were different. So that's how we laid down the little pieces of us going from being a basketball team to a basketball program. The first couple of weeks, he started on Saturday mornings. The varsity players would all come up and we would coach the 5th and 6th graders. As much probably to get us out of bed as anything. But so we would coach. Terry Pepple was on my team. We coached these kids in practices and games for every week of the season. And at first it was, gee, I'd sure rather be in bed right now. And then after a few weeks, you realize what a kick these guys, what a thrill these guys are getting out of it, the kids. So you take pride in that, and you realize that part of it is passing along the program, passing along what we're doing to the younger generation. And of course, that was the precursor to Little Dribblers, and what goes on today now, 55 years later, right? 55 years later. So it was quite a year. There was a lot done. We had a successful year. Had a lot of fun. We got to know the coach as a coach. Everybody knows him, knows he's got a kind of a wicked little sense of humor. He doesn't mind jabbing every now and then. He had that impish smile. And so we finished up. Now, I graduated that year. I was done after 1 year here at the high school. After graduation, like many things, you really realize how significant something that you went through is. And over the years, it dawned on me. I'm a slow learner, right? But he became a friend. He was a mentor. Always enjoyed conversation with him on the phone. It always involved his family, which was great. Most times that happens, it's like, let's get to the end of this. But it was always fun to hear what the Pepple family was doing, okay? And he took such pride in that. He took such pride in that and got such joy out of it. So all the accolades, all the wins, the championships, state, league, all the halls of fame, all the things that recognize his talents and longevity and gifts as a coach and a person meant something to him. Everything meant something to him, but nothing meant any more to him than his family and his family of guys that had played with him. And he did a great job of keeping in touch with people. And it warmed my heart when he retired in 2008. The last game, he made a comment about that team was not the most talented team, and Gavin could probably say what their record was, I don't know. But didn't, no league championship like that. And he said, this is the most fun I've had coaching a team in all my years. And I thought, how exceptional is that? He was the most competitive guy you'd ever meet, but what was important was the people. It was all about the people. And that he lived his life that way. He's touched every one of us, and every one of us has touched him. So I just want to say thank you all for being here. Coach, thank you for what you've done. You're still with us. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. We're going to shift our attention back to the screen for some video messages, a little compilation of both people that are here and a few that were unable to make it this afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Olson, and in the summer of 1994, I had the good fortune to be named the Associate Principal Athletic Director at this high school. That began an almost 20-year working relationship with Coach Pepple, a relationship I cherish to this day. There are certainly a number of games and championships won and lost in conversations I can recall regarding Coach Pepple. I had the privilege to nominate Coach for the WIAA Hall of Fame. I recall vividly his acceptance speech, where he was very clear that the one win he was most proud of had nothing to do with a basketball game or any other game for that matter. It was winning the heart, love, and support of his wife Shirley. He loved the game of basketball, but that would never come close to his love of family.
Hey, my name is Scott Didrikson, and I played for Coach from 89 to 91. And my first memory of Coach was 1985, walking into that gym for the first time and being blown away by the crowd and by Coach in his blazer and by Quinn and Brian and that incredible team. And I remember just walking away thinking I would do anything to play for Coach Pepple and to be a part of that program. That the things that he taught, the principles, the expectations that he had, that those don't just come out in my life.
The best leader I've ever been around, Coach P. When preparation meets opportunity. If I had a nickel for every time he asked a player to define luck, I'd be a wealthy man. Character, accountability, leadership, commitment, but most importantly, preparation were all those things that defined not only a program that was continuously victorious and successful, but the men that he helped raise that became fathers, CEOs, or hardworking men in their communities. Thanks to Coach P, there are thousands of men that are contributing to their communities in a very positive way. I love you, I miss you, but I will never forget how much you impacted my life and the lives of all the others that were fortunate to call themselves Islanders. Go Islanders.
Coach P and all the people who came before me in the program, you all shaped the basketball player I became, as well as a lot of who I became as a person. It is an honor to be a part of this group of alumni. I will always cherish the times I had on the court and the bonds that I made off of it. That said, I still grew my hair out a little for you, Coach. I miss you all.
Hi, my name is Ann Meisner. As the Athletics and Facilities Coordinator at Mercer Island High School, I worked with Coach Pepple from the time I was hired in March 2003 until he retired. From the Boys Basketball Booster Club leadership and all of the coaches and all of the assistant coaches, I really enjoyed it all. It was truly an honor to work with the coach, and it was a highlight of my time at Mercer Island High School.
Ed will be missed. I thought he had a great sense of humor. Ed would laugh, have a good time with it, and always go out and do his best. And miss Ed and Shirley were a great team, and I just have the utmost respect for Coach Pepple and everything he did.
I remember as a young coach, I'll never forget how kind, respectful, the fact he knew my name. And if I asked, he was always willing to give advice. Now, I guess as one of those older coaches, that still resonates with me. And in some way, shape, or form, I can do that towards younger coaches in our state.
To Shirley and the Pepple family, I have so many reasons that I owe a heartfelt thank you to Coach Pepple. First, Coach Pepple coached Noah, our son, from little dribblers all the way through varsity. And Coach Pepple did it the right way, emphasizing competition and winning while instilling the value of hard work, integrity, and sportsmanship.
Hey everybody, this is Dyron Mobley. I played for Coach Pepple from 1995 to 1997. He taught us how to be men. For me personally, he gave me an opportunity to play on a number one ranked team, and at the time I was really struggling as a young 15-year-old who didn't see much for himself. Basketball was just a place to go to stay out of trouble. And anytime I wasn't playing basketball or baseball, I was in trouble. And there was enough light on that program that I was intrigued. Had some success one night, and the rest was kind of history. I put everything else to bed. Without that program, I don't think I would be where I'm standing right now to make this video. But I really enjoyed just the fact that he shared his life with us. You know, basketball was just part of it, and practice was about life. It was about tennis. It was about, you know, how Mrs. Pepple and he were working things and doing whatever. You know, he kept it light, but enough to know that he was a human first, and really like a father to most of us. I just want to say thanks, Coach. I love you, and I miss you.
All right. Oh, those were awesome. We've got another batch of those coming. So our next speaker, Eric Nordstrom, class of 1981, is a member of the Islander basketball community who played in arguably the most infamous game in the history of the state basketball, the Shadle Park Championship game of 1981. Although I wasn't even born yet, I've heard I was almost born. I was born that year, but not yet. Although I wasn't even born yet, I've heard about this game for as long as I can remember surrounding basketball. It gets brought up in conversation a handful of times per year, and I always direct people to the MI Basketball YouTube page, which you should go to see for themselves that the final shot came well after the regulation buzzer in what should have been our first state championship banner. And by the way, we have in this corner the state runner-up banners. It's not up there, so that sends a little bit of a message. But Eric, I know that the experience you and your teammates had in this program was not at all defined by just a bogus call and a referee's decision. You played in this program as it was taking another step towards its legacy. I know there was a very special bond between Coach Pepple and your group. So let's give it up for Eric Nordstrom.
Well, thank you. Thanks for bringing up that great memory. I was very honored and surprised when Gavin texted about speaking because while the Shadle Park story is a good story, you may have noticed he didn't comment on any of my records like Steve's. I think I'm here to represent all the Grays. The Grays. For those who don't know, Grays were the second stringers, Maroons were the first stringers. I was a Gray. So, you know, it's been about a week since Gavin reached out, and a lot of memories. And, thinking about all my time starting as a little dribbler and loving every moment of it. And it struck me kind of yesterday. I was thinking about, I hadn't thought about any games. I did not think about the Shadle Park game. I didn't think of any of the big wins. And I think for most people outside of this room, they think Coach Pepple is the winningest coach in Washington State history. All the stories I thought of were how Coach made me feel. And in particular, that feeling of belonging, of being part of something that was bigger and better than myself. And I loved that. And Coach knew how to use tradition to build a culture, and he built a great culture. You know, things like certainly the haircuts. You feel it, Steve? That was kids today understand what a big deal it was. I guess it was a big deal in 1967. It was a big deal in 1981. I assure you. The maroon blazers from Don's Men's Shop. I assure you that was the only article quoted from Don's Men's Shop in our household. The little dribblers in particular, I think, define so much about that coach's genius. And to me, the genius in little dribblers was not in, which so much of I think in sports today is about the focusing on the very, very best athletes at a young age and honing them to select teams and all that. It was about the high school players getting up on Saturday mornings, like Steve said, and coaching 5th and 6th graders. And not a select group of 5th and 6th graders. It was anyone. And I think by the time I came through, Mercer Island, if you're going Mercer Island, pretty much play little dribblers. And the power in that, I like the story before, but when you're playing as 5th and 6th grader, your coach, that high school player, is your hero, is this amazing person. And to me, that was Tommy Hannon. Tommy Hannon, to this day, I think Tommy Hannon's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen in my life. Some have suggested to me that he's not the greatest player.
Don't listen to him, Eric.
All right. And that belonging was not an elitist thing. You know, certainly for me, that belonging was being part of something, again, that was good and that went about things the right way. You know, certainly playing the right way, practicing the right way, but being a teammate the right way. With some of our team this year, and you know, the deepest friendships I've made have been through not just being on that team, but being part of something that we all knew was great, regardless of the outcomes of the games. That culture, that belonging shaped me, and I'm a big believer in culture. Culture can do a lot. We can all accomplish so much more together than we ever can individually. And I think back to Coach a lot to this day, all these years later. So, Coach, obviously a great coach, and a spectacular person. Thank you.
All right, second batch of video messages.
My name's Rick Turner. I am the head coach for the Jamaica national basketball team, and I'm a proud former assistant coach with the Mercer Island varsity program, alongside with Coach Pepple. But I will say this, many of you may not know this, but 27 years ago, Coach went to Jamaica and essentially started a basketball camp down there called the Jump Ball Basketball Camp, which he then passed on to Omar Parker, and Omar passed it on to me. And, you know, 27 years later, we've probably reached about 25,000 kids. We do camps all over Jamaica, as well as in Haiti. And all of that was started from Coach Pepple. And I think a lot of people will echo the sentiments that they would not be where they are today without his help and mentoring and friendship.
So I just want to say thank you to Coach Pepple. Thank you not only for teaching so many of us the fundamentals of the game, teaching us in such a way that allowed us all the opportunity to fall in love with the game of basketball, and teaching us that if you play together as a team, as one unit, and believe in each other, and believe in the process, and you work hard, you can become successful. But most importantly, thank you for teaching us how to become a better person. The principles you stood for, the lessons you taught us, transcended the game of basketball and prepared us for life. They built a bridge for every one of us to become successful. So for that, Coach Pepple, I say thank you. You're one of the main reasons we all are proud to be Islanders.
Say what my mother always said, and that is the proof is in the pudding. And when I look at the two men in my life that were influenced by Ed, my son Noah and my son-in-law Gavin, I say thank you, Ed. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Mercer Island basketball.
Coach P, my favorite Coach Pepple line is, if you can't be on time, then you better be early. I'm Kramer Spear, and I played for Coach Pepple from 2004 to 2007. And whether it was from being a ball boy when I was younger to senior night, he always brought joy to the game. And yes, I'm sorry, Coach, I did lie. I did keep my jersey and framed it for my office. We love you, Coach P. Rest in peace.
Hey, this is Grant Farmer, class of 1993, and I was trying to reflect on some things as far as Coach Pepple and his overall influence on my life, and there's so many, and really kind of for me, what I think about is just the very beginning, 8 or 9 years old, going to Little Dribblers, going to the varsity games on Friday nights, seeing the crowd waiting outside, trying to get in, a lot of people getting turned away, just the energy and excitement. And then having the opportunity to play for Coach and be in that environment. And then obviously afterwards, just beyond high school, going into college and beyond, I actually went into coaching because of Coach Pepple, had an opportunity to come back and be on his staff for a year, which was great. But overall, just the principles he instilled, always wanting more, which, you know, there were times when I'd walk away from a game or practice and feel like, hey, I did pretty good today. And Coach would let you know there's more to give from an individual standpoint and a team standpoint. And he was always moving the bar. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think a lot of times we think we've given everything we have, and you have somebody like Coach who can pull more out of you. And ultimately, in my life, whether it's coaching my kids, other kids, and just in everyday life, I'm always reminded that I have more to give. Because
what's up, guys? Brian Booty Brown here, as Coach P would call me. I just want to say hey to all the Islanders out there. Special hi to the Pepple family. What else? What can you say about Coach P? Is a heck of a coach, probably one of the best to ever do it. Touched so many young men's lives across the country and the world from the game of basketball. Taught us all about values, loyalty, respect, and hard work. And none of us are playing tennis like Coach P ever was at his age. But we all try to get out there and do what we can, support our family, support our friends, just like Coach P always did. Like I said, it wasn't just about basketball with him. It was about more. It was about life. You know, Coach P got the opportunity to coach 3 Brown brothers. You know, myself, Tarek Brown, and Fred Brown Jr. 2 of those brothers got a state championship. Sorry, Fred, you came up a little short. But like, Coach, we love you to death. You know, I'm sorry that you're not here with us anymore, but you will always live through Mercer Island basketball and basketball in general. And I take everything that you've taught me till this day. I do what I can. I give back. I help out young men, young women, all because of what you've taught me. And I will continue to do that to my dying day. Just respect for the whole family, Pepple family. Love you guys for supporting all the young men and everybody that came up through the system. It's just great to be an Islander, and I'll always be an Islander. Bleed maroon and white. Go Islanders.
Our third speaker today is someone who has meant a lot to the MI basketball program because of his impact as both a player and a coach. Omar Parker, class of 1986, was a member of the state championship team of 1985, and then returned to coach with Ed on 2 different occasions over the next decade plus, contributing as an assistant coach for the 93 and 99 state championship winning teams. Omar was a trainer, a coach, and a mentor to many Islander players throughout the 90s, and is now the head coach at Liberty High School, where he goes to battle with the Islanders on several occasions per season. Omar has several decades of coaching experience, having also coached collegiately at WSU, Boise State, and Missouri. Although you'll find him wearing blue and green these days, we all know he bleeds maroon and white from the inside. Omar Parker.
The 5 Ps, but we'll get to that in a minute. Thank you for the honor of speaking today. Today I'm surrounded by many, if not most, of the most influential and important people in my life, and I'm sure yours. It's an honor. I'm also sure that before you came today, you knew who Steve Hawes was. He played for Washington, 10 seasons in the NBA. I'm told that Seattle used to have a team named the Sonics, and he actually played for those guys. I'm also sure that you've heard of Eric Nordstrom. He runs a small shoe store in Seattle, tried to branch out and compete on the maroon jacket scene for a while at Dawn's. I don't know. I saw him. He looks like he's doing okay. That's good. Me, I'm just Omar. Coach Omar to some of you. Of his 5 state championships, yes, 5, Gavin pointed out before the 4 of them, I was either a player or a coach. Those close to the program will know that Coach gave me much responsibility, but Coach also gave me far too much credit. I grew up playing little dribblers on Saturday mornings, traveled to Texas like many of you, and also dreamed of playing in this gym as a young boy on Friday nights. I know this is on video, so no offense like guys to Fred Brown and Slick Watts, Jack Sigma, but as a kid, my real idols were Kyle Pepple, Al Muscatel, Doug Gregory, the Nordstrom brothers, Rich, Joe, Paul, the list goes on and on. Why? Because even as a 3rd grader, I could see excellence. I could see togetherness. Couldn't verbalize it, but I could feel it, and I knew I needed to be part of it. Coach Pepple built excellence and taught his players togetherness and how to be role models, something that's often sorely missing today. My gosh, as a 6th grader, I would get out of Mercer Crest, it's now in Northwood, and I would run up the hill to sit and study practice. After practice, I would talk to my idols for a minute, and then maybe Coach Pepple would smile at me and say an encouraging word or 2. I needed those words. I was so crazy, though, that once the guys hit the showers, I would go sit in Chris Campy's Dodge, or whatever that car was, and wait for him to drive me home. I lived less than a mile from here. But those 4 or 5 minutes for a, 6th grader were so important to me. Coach Pepple built that. I needed that. At Coach Pepple's retirement party, Kyle Pepple said, and I'm going to blow this toss, so I'm sorry, I'm going to paraphrase. He said he could have coached anything, led anything, and it would have been successful. A leader and a visionary, I'm sure we can all agree, we're all just lucky that he chose basketball. Although had I chosen golf, might have extended my playing career a bit. I mean, I barely stand 6'4". Our community needed him. He led it and made it proud. Our state needed him. He drew the blueprint for not a basketball program, but what a program should look like for any sport. He made up AAU teams before there were AAU teams. And he invented youth programs that were tied to high school programs. We all need that. We all needed Coach Pepple and still do. And luckily, he had such a great impact that he will never be gone from our hearts and our minds. At 21, I was struggling, to say the least, and I was offered my first high school position. It was at a rival high school. I needed Coach Pepple, so I sought his advice. I came, I explained my desire to begin coaching. He listened, and after a while, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "You aren't going anywhere. You're an Islander." And he hired me and changed the course of my life again. I needed it. Later, when I wanted to move to the college ranks, I applied for an assistant job at Washington State. It was my first gig. We sat in a meeting with my new staff members. They told me I was one of 204 applicants. I puffed up and my head swole. I was like, one of 204? They go, "Yeah, the reason we hired you is because Coach Pepple called about 50 times on your behalf. And that you're from the best program in the state. And you've played and coached under one of the best coaches in the country." Once again, I needed him. I moved from pro basketball to college basketball, job after job, and always sought his advice. I was out of coaching for a short time. I was living in Southern California. And this was about 12 years ago. I received a phone call. It was a new job offer in Seattle. Great game. I was offered half of what I was making at the time in California. But the guy that offered me the job knew me pretty well. He said, "Well, you're going home, and I'll let you coach high school basketball." I sat down, typed out a one-sentence letter, walked upstairs, and quit. The greatest times of my coaching career were here. We were by his side. Took a while. Chased television in private planes, climbed that crazy ladder. Guys like Travis are on. Jeez. But I knew that this is what I wanted to do, was be a high school coach, just like him. So I'm driving home. Took the opportunity while I'm coming from Southern California to stop and play Pebble Beach with my brother Chris. And shortly after finishing the 18th hole, I'm still in golf shoes. I was essentially offered the Liberty High School job. Wasn't even home yet. Didn't know if starting a new job. Liberty did a postseason once in 40 years in the school history. Hadn't lived at home for any time in 100 years. So I drove home and met with Coach Pepple because I needed him. He calmly looked at me, once again, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Omar, doesn't matter where, you're a coach. Go coach." I took the job, and now I'm in my 12th season. Not a day goes by when something doesn't come up that makes me think of him. If you can't be on time, be early. The clock in my car is set 5 minutes fast, just to make sure that I'm going to be 5 minutes early. You know, it's silly. I'm old. Your attitude determines your altitude. Go into everything with a positive attitude. The 5 P's, told you. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Before a business call, before one of my high school games, honestly, she's not here, so I can say this. When I'm going home and I know I'm in trouble with my wife, I refer to the 5 P's of proper preparation. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. Things are tough, you gotta persevere. A guy has got to eat. This one drove me nuts. When I was on his staff as a young coach, we would end the game and I would want to just talk it to death, figure out why. And the guy's got to eat, Omar. Yeah, coach, we should go to a guy has got to eat. There was a Tony Romo's or Applebee's anywhere near, man. We were there. The guy liked consistency, I'll give him that. Stop freaking with the deal! And he would rub his head. He was moving hair he didn't have over. Stop freaking with the deal! It wasn't that he wasn't creative or didn't continually work on his craft. He did. He went to clinics and studied. Gosh, he sent me on him to bring back stuff. But if it isn't broke, don't fix it. It surely wasn't. Play hard, play smart, play together. What part of life does this not pertain to? Your job, family, any relationship that you have. Maybe I haven't told you anything you don't know, but he was competitive and driven. To officials, other coaches, and even sometimes to his players, he could be intimidating. But he also had the biggest of hearts. I've desperately tried to copy him in most every way. I've had a little success. But I know in the end, copying him will be absolutely impossible. Coach said to me, it's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize. So I have one more story that's going to emphasize something about him that I feel was his greatest attribute. You know he was a smart strategist, a master motivator, a great family man, a teacher, a leader, and a visionary. Here's the story. I'm a young coach. I'm assisting you. We had a troubled kid on that team. Going through stuff. Many of us could have been that kid. I know I was that kid. Pain in the ass. I wanted to cut him. I pleaded with Coach Pepple to do so. I was scared to death that this kid was going to disrupt the team. My timing wasn't great, it was during practice, so he kind of blew me off, saying, we'll talk about it later, we'll talk about it later. I persisted. Practice ended. Coach called me over to the side of the gym. It was usually right over there. Because in the old days, you walked through the middle, right here. And that was when you knew it. It was on. One-on-one time with the coach. But I was a coach now. I wasn't a player anymore. Like, we're going to cut this kid, man. So I followed him over to the sidelines. Vowed, I'm going to hold my ground. Just my moment. We talked about it. He listened for a second. And then once again, Coach Pepple put his hand on my shoulder. And with soft eyes that he did not display very often in practice, he said, "Omar, sometimes people need us more than we need them. We all need him. We still do."
Good afternoon. My name is David Sanford, and it's an honor to serve on the host committee alongside Gavin and Ruth Ann, and an absolute pleasure to be here with you all, our Mercer Island basketball family. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we pull together. As the varsity team manager for all 4 years at Mercer Island, I was spoiled early and fully indoctrinated into the way a basketball program should run as part of the 98-99 state championship team during my freshman year. It was actually a temporary setback that led to this life-altering experience. I had tried out alongside my friends for the freshman squad in 1998. When freshman coach Bill Lively called to cut me, he asked if I wanted to be the freshman team manager. I wasn't sure exactly what that entailed, but I did know that I'd get to spend time with my buddies all season, even if I wasn't suiting up. So I said yes. Bill, you're here somewhere. Where are you? Hi, Bill. Thank you. Just in time for the start of the regular season, Coach Pepple was in need of a manager and called me up to the big show, varsity. Just as an aside, a number of folks have mentioned the Maroon Blazers, of course, and what it meant to us and, of course, to our opponents when we showed up in the gym in our Blazers. And it made me remember an article from that first season that I think was in the Tacoma News-Tribune. And it said that the Islanders looked like teenagers on a business trip, and that everyone else was about to get the business. That always stuck with me. I owe much of my success, many deep friendships, my outlook and my character to Coach Pepple's teaching and mentorship. Basketball may have been the vehicle, but the lessons are rich and generalizable to all facets of life. For example, free throws win basketball games. Sweat the small stuff, the easy stuff. Don't overlook the low-hanging fruit. Do everything you can to put yourself in a position to be successful. Don't let others determine your fate. Pull together. Teamwork. Recognize the difference between correcting the action and not the person. Constructive criticism from a place of love. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. After all, practicing the wrong things doesn't make you any better. Make a plan and work your plan. Prepare, 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 and then execute. Setbacks are temporary. Don't dwell on the losses. Garbage in, garbage out. Be confident in your convictions and don't allow naysayers or negative self-talk to creep in. Attitude is everything. At team retreat, Coach passed out simple gold pins for us to affix to our gym bags or our blazers. The design was just one word, attitude. We hope that you'll proudly carry this message forward by sporting the gold attitude pin updated with Islander Maroon that you received as you arrived today. I could list more. It's no surprise to hear the repeating themes and the consistency across the personal stories shared by all of today's speakers, and undoubtedly shared by the rest of our program alumni gathered here today. In a way, that consistency perfectly exemplifies Coach Pepple's reach and impact. It's truly remarkable. If you played or coached with Ed Pepple, you're familiar with the way we mark the close of each basketball season, a tradition known as blackout. Coach Pepple started this tradition in his very first season at Mercer Island, and Coach Creed continues the tradition today. For those few who may be unfamiliar, here's how it works. Each spring, the team gathers in the high school auditorium, dressed in our maroon blazers and ties, of course. The house lights are turned down, a blackout, except for one spotlight on center stage. And from somewhere out of sight, Coach Pepple's gravelly voice reverberates as he reads out a name, starting with the youngest varsity player. The athlete steps on the stage and into the spotlight. First varsity letter, Coach might begin, before recounting that player's highlights and accomplishments from the season. One by one, each member of the varsity takes his solo turn in the spotlight to be recognized, sophomores to seniors. Rarely do freshmen make varsity at Mercer Island. Coach Pepple worked carefully to tailor his remarks in advance, and we each received a typed copy of the script afterward. Blackout was special for many reasons, not the least of which because it was just about the only time that Coach would focus our attention on individuals. The only other exception may have been player of the day in practice, usually awarded to the guy who exhibited the most hustle, the least selfishness, someone who took a charge or helped a teammate. After the individual recognitions, the season's MVP, Most Improved, and Coaches Awards were issued before the full squad returned to the stage for a final recognition. No longer individuals, once again, a team. The atmosphere was that of a commanding officer reviewing his troops after a successful deployment. But instead of placing a medal around our necks or decorating our uniform with a mission pin, Coach took on the role of the man behind the curtain, placing each athlete literally center stage as he shared his accolades. And perhaps in his subtle but deliberate way, Coach was hinting at what we would all realize in the years after we graduated from Mercer Island, that no matter the distance or where life took us, we would always hear his voice echoing in our minds and in our hearts. We'd now like to honor Coach Pepple in the way that he honored each of us, and take a few moments to turn the spotlight on his contributions and accomplishments. It's an impossible task to capture not just one season, but the seasons of life over 88 impactful, successful, fulfilled years. Coach taught us to set ambitious goals, so we'll try. Cue the lights, please. A life fit for a Hollywood script. A hero's journey seemingly straight from the Greeks, replete with trials, tribulations, challenges, hard work and determination, twists, turns, and surprises, grit, toughness, leadership, and obstacles overcome. A journey full of love, joy, incredible achievement, triumph, and success. An inspiration to generations of Islanders and many others around the globe. An epic tale that imparts values, life lessons, advice. It creates a culture carried forward by posterity. Coach Ed Pepple's life story is a hero's journey that deserves to be celebrated. Eddie Lee Post was born July 22nd, 1932, to Helen and Archie Post in Denver, Colorado. His infancy was spent in Montana before he and his mother left for Seattle in 1934. Eddie learned independence and self-resilience at a young age, happily inventing his own sports games to entertain himself while his mother worked. Making friends came easily to Eddie. Eddie was 7 years old when his mother, Helen, met and later married Raymond Pepple. Raymond loved Eddie and adopted him, making him Eddie Lee Pepple. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Eddie's father Raymond enlisted in the Army, starting a geographic whirlwind of a childhood, which saw Eddie attend 16 elementary schools between 1st and 6th grade. From Seattle to Kentucky, Maryland to Texas, Southern California, back to Wenatchee, and once again Seattle, Eddie endeared himself to friends wherever he went. Classmates and teachers alike were sad to see him leave when it came time for the next stop on his cross-country tour. This early life experience would foreshadow a lifetime of travel, both near and far, and a unique ability to forge friendships and relationships wherever he went. In other words, Eddie was always building family, and he was always the heart center of that family. Back in Seattle, Eddie worked throughout junior high, helping his mother run a small grocery store near the University of Washington before and after school and on the weekends. The value of work and of work ethic would prove a foundational footing for the rest of Eddie's life. By the time he enrolled at Lincoln High School, athletics were squarely front and center. Eddie played basketball, baseball, and tennis. As an underclassman, he was cut from both football and basketball, told he couldn't shoot. I mentioned his work ethic. Between junior and senior year in high school, Eddie spent the summer in Wenatchee picking fruit. He soon figured out that he could excel in his speed and tenacious defense and worked his way up to Bill Nolan's varsity basketball team by senior year, earning his teammates' trust and the role of captain to boot. That year, however, his father re-enlisted in the Army, which meant a move south to Fort Lewis. Eddie's parents allowed him to stay in a boarding house above Wright's Cafe on 42nd and Aurora, owned by a family friend. He was on his own. That senior season, Lincoln battled to the state championship game undefeated and suffered their only loss of the year there. Work. Linesman at the Bar Power Company. Following graduation, the Pepple family planned to move to Germany for Raymond's next deployment, but a last-minute change sent him to Korea instead, where the base did not allow family. Eddie called Coach John Milroy at Everett Junior College, who agreed to give him a spot on the team, and so he enrolled. After a standout performance in the third game of his first season, Eddie decided it was time to make one of the most important moves he'd make in his life. For a while, he had had his eye on a beautiful, but unavailable, senior at Everett High School, the homecoming queen, Shirley. But fresh off of his local celebrity status after that game, he asked her out, and she agreed. After all, she had recently broken things off with the class president. After freshman basketball season at Everett, Eddie played center field on the junior college baseball team, which won state that year. Work. Overnight shift at Everett Plywood. Everett Boys Club all day. Sophomore year rolled around, and with it, a temporary setback. His parents' divorce meant that he had to cover all of his living expenses and tuition. It was not easy to tell athletic director Walt Price that he couldn't play basketball that year due to his work schedule, sweeping floors and working in the parts department of an auto dealership. But the setback was just that, temporary. Eddie took initiative to form his own basketball team to play when his schedule allowed, competing in the Snoqualmie League, complete with a sponsor to underwrite uniforms. His persistence, positivity, and relationship building paid off later that year when, to Eddie's surprise, the Everett AD relayed that the University of Utah was looking for a point guard for its freshman team. A meeting was arranged with Utah head coach Peterson during the Final Four hosted at Hackett that year. Having never seen him play, on Walt Price's word alone, Coach Peterson offered Eddie a full scholarship to the University of Utah. Arriving as a sophomore, Eddie quickly earned a spot as the reserve guard, defensive specialist. During the summers between sophomore and junior and senior years, Eddie attended Marine boot camp for 6 weeks. He also played semi-pro baseball for the Cheney Studs during the summer. And there was work for the Everett Paving Company, paving the road from Everett to Linwood. A newspaper article his junior year at Utah gave him the nickname Pepple for his hustle and drive. Apparently his teammates called him the Little Bear, and he was their team captain. At the start of senior year, in October of 1954, Eddie drove to Seattle, picked up Shirley, took her to dinner at Spud's on Green Lake, and then to Woodland Park Zoo, where, in the parking lot around 10 p.m., he asked Shirley to marry him. The story goes that he spent the next 4 hours convincing her to say yes. And that then they woke up her parents in the middle of the night to share the good news. That season, his final at Utah, the team won the conference championship, went 24-4, and made a Sweet 16 appearance. The Utes lost to a University of San Francisco team that featured Bill Russell and Casey Jones, who went on to win the national championship. Utah ended that season ranked number 6 in the country. Eddie was named to the All-Conference second team, was a 3-year letter winner, and named most inspirational at Utah. That spring, Eddie and Shirley married on March 23, 1955, the spring of his senior year. After graduation, he reported to Quantico for officer training, earning the rank second lieutenant, Eddie Pepple. He continued to play basketball in the Marines. In fact, with some outstanding athletes. When Eddie wasn't getting much playing time as the third guard on the team, he asked the coach what he could do to learn and help the team. The answer was scout. This earned him more playing time as he was familiar with the opponents. While at Quantico, his team won the All-Marine Corps Championship. Upon transferring to Camp Pendleton, to Eddie's dismay, he found no basketball team on base. So he sought the appropriate permissions and formed a team himself. This included finding a gym to play in and acting as the GM. After basketball season ended, he discovered that there was similarly no baseball team. So he formed one of those too. But there was a temporary setback. No baseball diamond to play on. So Eddie led his engineering battalion and built the diamond. Once again, he acted as GM and center fielder. By June of 1957, Eddie had completed his tour of duty, and he, Shirley, newborn Terry, moved back up to Seattle. Securing a job as an English teacher and coach at Fife, both basketball and tennis, it was at this point, after the Marines, that he would truly become Coach Ed Pepple. By the way, no shortage of work. Eddie took on summer jobs at the University of Washington, the YMCA, the newspaper, all while advancing his teaching credentials in summer school. Coach Pepple led Fife to a fourth place finish at state in only his third season there. After 6 increasingly productive seasons, he took a JV job at Meadowdale to be closer to family. An unusual move for most coaches, but one that reflected his values and priorities. He was also successful as the head coach at Mark Morris, a position he held briefly before beginning his legendary 42-year tenure at the helm of Mercer Island's boys basketball team in 1967. Highlights. There are too many highlights on this 88-year journey to recount all of them, but we know which ones top the list. Number 1, Mary and Shirley. Of course, the birth and upbringing of his 4 beloved children, Terry, Jill, Jody, and Kyle, and watching his family grow, enjoying time with his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. For Coach Pepple, family was central. And the basketball family that Coach Pepple cultivated provided its share of highlights too. Coach Pepple ran the Bob Hoberg's basketball camp for many years in the 60s and 70s. The camp was on Whidbey Island at Fort Casey, and at the time, was the only overnight basketball camp in Western Washington. College and pro players were counselors, and Ed ran it every summer, bringing Shirley and the family for a month to Fort Casey. He pioneered team travel in the 1970s, exposing his young players to the toughest competition, new experiences away from home, and new cultures around the country and the world. These trips were about developing basketball skills, sure, but also about imparting worldly life skills like self-reliance and exposure to different cultures. He was constantly learning and integrating from other great coaches. Coach Pepple implemented team retreats before the start of each season and built the culture that we now know as Mercer Island basketball. In 1982, he coached the All-American game. He was named National Basketball Coach of the Year in 1998 by the National High School Coaches Association. Selected 7 times as the State Coach of the Year and League Coach of the Year numerous times. He is in 6 Halls of Fame, including the State of Washington Sports Hall of Fame and the National High School Hall of Fame. Coach Pepple's record was 882 wins, 237 losses over 42 years at Mercer Island. His Islander teams won 23 Kinco Conference titles, 5 state championships, 3 officially at the 4A level in 85, 93, and 97, of course 81, and the 3A title in 99. Coach Pepple is the winningest coach in Washington State history, with a career record of 952, 306. That's 224 wins more than the second winningest coach in state history, Pat Fitterer, who relayed a message that we heard earlier today. All of that said, if you asked him, Coach Pepple would undoubtedly say that his greatest accomplishment was not the winning seasons, the championships, or the awards. Rather, it was the culture. He graduated dozens of players that went on to play in the NCAA and a number that played in the NBA and international pro leagues. He mentored hundreds of athletes and coaches and touched innumerable lives. If you know Coach P, you know that his greatest accomplishment is this gym that we're in, what it stands for, and all of us here together, a team, a family. I'm confident that if we could ask him, this would be his highlight. Winningest, legendary, Hall of Fame, champion. These are the honorifics that come before Ed's true title, coach. Men like this only come around once in a generation, or in Coach Pepple's case, once in several generations. It's one thing to read, watch, or hear about a hero's journey, and it's another thing entirely to experience it up close, and even take part in small, or in some cases, large parts of it along the way, as everyone here has had the privilege of doing. Coach P, while we miss you, we carry you with us always. We love you. From all of us, your Mercer Island Islanders. As the blackout ceremony concluded and the lights came up in the auditorium, a final act marked the transition from one season to the next. The graduating seniors removed their maroon blazers and left them on their seats for the next generation. We'd like to mark this transition, the end of an incredible life and the continuation of an even more incredible legacy, by ceremonially dedicating this hallowed hardwood in Coach Pepple's honor. While this dedication is unofficial, for now, in our hearts and minds, we will always know that this is Ed Pepple's court. Thank you again for being a part of Mercer Island basketball and for coming together to honor Coach Pepple. We look forward to continuing the celebration of his life with you today. One last thing before we go. Find your teammates, your seatmates, huddle up, hands in. Let's see it. As Coach would say, Islanders on three. 1, 2, 3, Islanders!